Alright folks, we're locked in again, you're rolling with me, and if you thought the last few weeks of this rap war were loud, buckle in, because what just dropped might be the single most reckless, most calculated, most surgically petty scheduling move in the entire history of modern hip-hop, and DJ Akademiks, the loudest mouth in the whole Drake defense department, just walked on camera and basically confessed he's terrified of what's about to happen. I'm going to break down every layer of this thing tonight, because between Jay-Z quietly slotting a stadium date on Drake's birthday, whispers of a brand new Jay-Z album in the chamber, and the very real possibility of Kendrick Lamar walking out on that Inglewood stage in front of the entire world, we are watching a chess move so ice-cold that even Akademiks accidentally admitted he wants a front row seat. Family, this is not a drill. This is not internet gossip. This is not fanfiction. This is a documented, on-record, calendar-verified sequence of events that any of you can pull up on your phone right now and confirm inside of 30 seconds. And once you see the timeline laid out cleanly, you will understand exactly why the Drake camp is running around like the building is on fire. Let me lay it out clean before we dig in, because the story is layered and every layer matters. Jay-Z has 2 nights booked at Sofi Stadium, October 23rd and October 24th, 2026. That second date, the 24th, was added after demand blew through the roof following the sellout of the Yankee Stadium run. That 24th just happens to be Drake's 40th birthday. And on the exact same afternoon that timeline lit up with the news, DJ Akademiks hopped on his stream, sat next to N.O.R.E., Ray Daniels, and Charlemagne, and casually dropped that he's heard Jay-Z has a new album on the way, that Jay wants Drake to respond so he can weaponize the smoke as a rollout, and that, I'm not making this up, if Jay brings out Kendrick Lamar in LA, Akademiks himself is going to be in the building. On Drake's birthday. Let that marinate for 1 second. The self-appointed general of Team Drake just said, live, on record, that he would fly to Los Angeles on his guy's 40th just to watch Jay-Z and Kendrick Lamar perform. If that is not the loudest tell in the history of tells, I don't know what is. And N.O.R.E. sitting next to him was smirking the entire time, because everybody in that studio understood what had just accidentally been said out loud. So let's dissect it, because Akademiks is trying really hard to spin this as a Jay-Z problem, and I need y'all to see how thin the ice under his feet actually is right now. First, the rollout weaponization argument. Akademiks is out here framing Jay-Z as some sort of villain for using the ongoing back and forth with Drake as promotional fuel for a new project. The logical contortions on that one are Olympic tier, because Drake, his guy, has spent literally the last 2 straight years centering entire album rollouts around Kendrick, around Jay, around Metro Boomin, around anybody with a pulse who dared question his crown. The Iceman rollout, from front to back, was one long smoke signal aimed at Kendrick Lamar. Drake didn't just throw shots, he built a merchandising line out of them. Iceman t-shirts, Iceman visuals, Iceman interviews, Iceman streams. The entire product architecture was a Kendrick-shaped weapon disguised as an album. So the second Jay-Z fires back and the smoke starts drifting back the other direction, suddenly it's dirty pool? No, family. That's not how this works. In this culture, if you fire rounds, you don't get to file a complaint when rounds come back your way. This is hip-hop. That's the deal you signed the moment you picked up the microphone. Every rapper alive knows this rule, and Drake, in particular, knows it because he has personally weaponized it more times than any artist in the streaming era. And here's the part that Akademiks and half his corner will never say out loud. Deep down, they know Drake cannot win the exchange. They know it. The panic isn't loud yet, but it's leaking out sideways, and you can hear it every time Akademiks opens his mouth about Jay-Z. He knows what Jay does in the booth. He knows what Jay does with a 15-line verse. He knows what Jay did to Nas, what Jay did to Prodigy, what Jay did to Mobb Deep as a collective. He knows the resume. That's why the second Jay-Z steps into the picture, Akademiks starts throwing everything but a real critique, hair jokes, age jokes, who's checking for old man Jay jokes, because he cannot look you in the eye and pretend the pen isn't a problem. And by the way, Jay is not going to be little brothered out of this conversation by anyone playing the big brother card on him. Jay is 20 years deep in the GOAT conversation. Some of you have him at number 1, some of you have him top 3, but nobody with a working set of ears has him outside the conversation. Not one credible critic. Not one credible historian. Not one credible practitioner in the entire ecosystem has ever seriously argued Jay-Z isn't in the mix. So the idea that a stream host with a chain and a microphone is going to talk Jay-Z out of his standing? That's comedy. Now here's where the story really turns cinematic. That October 24th Sofi Stadium date isn't just some random slot on a random weekend. It is Drake's birthday. It is Drake's 40th birthday. And Akademiks knows the exact math because he sat there on camera and counted the weeks like a man watching his own funeral being scheduled. That's 1 month. That's 2 months. We're 2 months and 2 weeks out. He counted it down. He said it out loud. And then he had the audacity to try and pass off the entire scheduling coincidence as Roc Nation running a psychological operation against Drake. Family, are we serious? A stadium tour date is booked months, sometimes over a year in advance. The original Los Angeles date was October 23rd. The 24th was added purely because ticket demand demanded another night. That's called a market response, not a chess move. But even if, and this is a big even if it turned out to be strategic, Drake has done the exact same thing more times than I can count on both hands. He has dropped on rivals' birthdays, dropped on rivals' album weeks, dropped on rivals' single-release Fridays, and none of us said a word because that's the game. So spare us the crocodile tears now that Jay-Z is holding the same playbook. Let's roll straight into the tape, because I want you to hear this in Akademiks' own voice, and I want you to notice the exact moment where he flinches. Watch how he starts by acting like Jay-Z is finished, washed up, irrelevant, and then in the very next breath he's counting down the weeks until Jay-Z's album, planning his flight to Los Angeles and daydreaming about seeing Kendrick Lamar walk out on that stage. That's not the behavior of a man who thinks Jay is done. That's the behavior of a man who knows Jay is loading up, and he's trying to get his narrative in front of it before the wave hits. He wants to write the recap before the game is even played. That's damage control 101. That's reality avoidance mode with a graphics package on top of it. And it never works, because the actual event always overwrites the preemptive framing. History does not care about your talking points once the tape rolls. And the moment Ray Daniels chimed in with his "New York is trying to punish Jay-Z" line, even the panel started laughing. Even Charlemagne, who has more patience than most humans on this planet, was visibly cracking up. Because it was that ridiculous. The reality of the casino bid situation is straightforward. Nas Group won that bid because their proposal had an existing structural blueprint. The site made sense, the logistics were tighter, and the community footprint was in Queens, which is Nas' actual home borough. It was a business decision. It wasn't an anti-Jay conspiracy delivered by Michael Bloomberg on a silver platter. But Ray needed the story to be that, because if it's a business decision, there's no drama. And these guys don't feed unless there's drama on the plate. That's the entire economic model of that side of the media room. I want to talk about the Kendrick Lamar pop-out possibility, because this is the part that has the whole timeline holding its breath. Think about the natural physics of the situation for a second. Jay-Z is performing in Los Angeles. Kendrick Lamar is from Compton, Los Angeles. The man just headlined the biggest Super Bowl halftime show in television history, a halftime show that Jay-Z himself produced through Roc Nation. Every major LA-based rapper, Snoop, Dre, YG, Ty Dolla, Baby Keem, is a phone call away. So the idea that Jay-Z would go to LA and not bring out at least one legend is fantasy. And when you're picking who to bring out, who realistically outranks Kendrick Lamar in that city, in this moment, in this era? Nobody. Not one name. Kendrick is the biggest rapper alive right now by a country mile, and the pairing of Jay-Z and Kendrick Lamar on the same stage, in that city, on that night, would break the internet in a way we have not seen since the Super Bowl itself. It would eat every other music story alive. It would trend on every platform, in every language, in every time zone, into the following morning, into the following week. That is the scale of the moment we are staring at. And Akademiks knows all of this. That's why the panic is showing. Because if Kendrick walks out on that stage on October 24th, the entire hip-hop world will not be talking about Drake's 40th birthday. They will be talking about Jay-Z, Kendrick, and the surgical precision of what just happened. And Akademiks understands that any Drake move that night, a surprise album, a surprise single, a surprise stream, a surprise anything will not just get overshadowed. It will get buried. 10 feet under. 20. Because there is no countermove in the current playbook that trumps Jay-Z and Kendrick Lamar sharing a stage for the first time since the Big Steppers tour. Not even close. Now watch the pivot Akademiks tries to run. He says, quote, "I would love to see Jay-Z." I don't think Jay-Z would try to bring out Kendrick on Drake's night. No doubt, the man is trying to preemptively write the alibi. Notice the framing. He's already conceding that if it did happen, it would be devastating. So he's front-loading the excuse that Jay would never do that because Jay is somehow too classy. Family, this is Jay-Z we're talking about. This is the same Jay-Z who ate Prodigy alive at Summer Jam with a Polaroid, in front of Mobb Deep's entire fanbase. This is the same Jay-Z who did Takeover and turned an entire subgenre against Nas overnight. This is the same Jay-Z who executive produced a Super Bowl halftime show featuring an artist actively at war with his so-called friend. Classy? Sure. But strategic? Absolutely. If Jay decides Kendrick makes the show bigger, Kendrick is walking out. Full stop. And the fact that it lands on Drake's birthday doesn't deter that decision, it accelerates it. Because Jay-Z understands optics the way an assassin understands sightlines. And here's where the double tap comes in. Because it is not just about the concert. It is about the album. Akademiks himself said, on the record, that he has heard Jay-Z has a new project in the chamber. He didn't say it's finished. He didn't say it's mixed. He didn't say a partner is locked in. But he confirmed the existence of the project. That family is the confirmation that everyone in the industry has been quietly whispering about all year long. Jay-Z has been more visible, more vocal, and more musically active in 2026 than he has been in over a decade. The Roots Picnic freestyle. The interviews. The strategic silences. The GQ cover. The tour dates. The Rock Nation moves. Everything has been pointing toward a project. And now Akademiks, the same Akademiks who has spent months trying to sell you the story that Jay-Z is done, washed, irrelevant, and dusty, is out here confirming the album exists and counting the weeks until it drops. Explain that logical detour to me without breaking your neck. You literally cannot. It is fan fiction contradicting itself in real time on a live stream. And on top of that, if Jay-Z's project drops in the same window as Drake's rumored fourth Scary Hours entry, and let's not forget, Drake has been telegraphing that project for weeks, you are looking at a head-to-head comparison that Drake, at this current moment in his career, cannot afford. Because right now, streaming metrics are the only weapon in Drake's arsenal, and even the streaming metrics have been softer than usual. Iceman didn't stick outside of a couple of records. What Did I Miss didn't stick. Janice was the one flare that landed. That's not enough gasoline to go head-to-head with a Jay-Z project that will absolutely be marketed as a legacy statement. Jay doesn't need first week 300s. Jay does 90K with a partnership deal and a physical push and dominates the conversation for 8 straight weeks because the album will actually get discussed, dissected, and quoted. And in an era where discourse equals momentum, that alone is a knockout. Now let's roll straight into the more damning tape, because this is where Akademiks accidentally showed his whole hand. He said on stream, and I quote loosely, I might go to that show, I might be in the building. Bro. You are Drake's #1 media surrogate. You have built an entire secondary revenue stream around defending this man from all corners of the industry. And you're going to fly to Los Angeles on Drake's 40th birthday to sit in an arena and watch Jay-Z and potentially watch Kendrick Lamar walk out on that stage? The optics on that alone are catastrophic. If you take that flight, you can never again go on stream and pretend the smoke is one-sided. You cannot condemn a man's rollout while simultaneously buying a ticket to the rollout. That's not media. That's fandom in a press uniform. And every hip-hop head with a functioning brain saw right through it in real time. The receipts are already circulating. The screenshots are already immortalized. And I want you to notice how the entire panel handled him. And Ori was smiling ear to ear because he knows exactly what Akademiks was doing. Ray Daniels was throwing his own hat in the ring. Charlemagne was over there acting as the referee of a fight that Akademiks was losing to himself in real time. The whole room understood that Akademiks was doing what he always does, trying to get in front of a moment he cannot control, trying to shape the narrative before the narrative shapes itself. That's the entire play. Get the framing out first, so when the actual event happens, the preloaded excuses are already in the audience's head. It's a media tactic that works, until the actual moment hits, and then it collapses under its own weight. And the way this dude has been talking about Jay-Z lately, family, is honestly wild. This is the same guy who a couple of months ago went bar for bar trying to convince the world that Drake's first 3 albums, combined, were worth more than Jay-Z's entire catalog. Take a breath and reread that sentence. Thank me later, take care, and nothing was the same. 3 excellent albums. Don't get it twisted, I love Take Care, but you're telling me those 3, stacked next to Reasonable Doubt, The Blueprint 2, The Black Album, American Gangster. Watch The Throne, 444, and everything in between, and Drake's 3 come out on top? On what score sheet? On what timeline? On what version of hip-hop history? That's not analysis. That's cosplay. That's a fan wearing a jersey and pretending to referee. And Akademiks knows this. He is not a stupid man. He is playing a role, and the revenue depends on the role staying in character. Once you understand that, every one of his takes stops being confusing and starts being predictable. Now, I do want to be fair to Akademiks for 1 second, and only 1 second, because he's not entirely wrong that Jay-Z would benefit if Drake actually responded to the Roots Picnic freestyle. Of course a response would help Jay's project. Any response from a Drake-tier artist adds fuel to any rollout. But that is not a Jay-Z problem. That is a Drake problem. Drake is the one who kept poking the bear. Drake is the one who kept telegraphing subtle shots on features and freestyles for the last 2 years. Drake is the one who invoked the Rock Nation subpoenas on his own gambling stream. Drake is the one who has been auditioning for this exact response. So when the response finally lands, and it lands with the weight of Jay-Z's discography behind it, you don't get to run to the referee and cry about the rollout being tainted. That is the definition of picking a fight and then complaining that your opponent showed up. Nobody who has watched a single boxing match in their life would allow that argument in good faith. You threw the first jab. The counter is on the menu. Eat it. And let's not skip past this. Drake has centered his entire post-2023 career around the concept of beef as marketing. The interviews, the stage banter, the photo ops, the Aiden Ross streams, the cryptic Instagram captions, the features that quietly slide in a diss line. This isn't a man who is above rollout warfare. This is a man who invented a modern version of it and profited from it more than anyone in the streaming era. So the moment Jay-Z borrows one page from that same playbook, suddenly the ethical committee gets convened? Please, save it. Every rapper alive uses conflict as marketing because conflict generates attention, and attention is the currency the industry runs on. I also want to talk to y'all about the media landscape around this thing, because it's actually more important than the beef itself. Because right now, the Drake Defense Industrial Complex is running out of talking points. They tried the "he's just a corporate rapper" line, didn't stick. They tried the "he's washed" line, Jay-Z stepped on a stage and torched the entire narrative in one freestyle. They tried the "nobody wants to hear from a 60-year-old" line, Jay's Yankee Stadium run sold out, forcing him to add multiple additional dates. Every single line of attack has been reversed inside of a month. And now the last remaining play is to try to poison the well of the rollout itself, to convince the audience that any Jay-Z project or Jay-Z moment is inherently tainted because it exists in proximity to Drake. That's a hollow argument, and it's not going to work because the audience is not stupid. The audience can see the timeline. The audience has receipts. The audience has X, Google, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. We are all looking at the same evidence, and the evidence says one thing very loudly. Jay-Z is having the biggest year of anyone in his generation, and Drake's team is running out of countermoves. The bench is empty. The playbook is thin. And Akademiks is out there running his mouth hoping the ball actually gets to him. Spoiler, it doesn't. Now let me get into the piece nobody wants to touch, because I promised I was going to bring the heat. What if, and hear me out, what if Jay-Z's new album actually features Kendrick Lamar? Not just a pop-out at the show. Not just a co-headliner shout. Not just a nod on the mic. A full, mixed, mastered Jay-Z and Kendrick Lamar collaboration on wax. Because if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, that is not just possible. That is likely. The Super Bowl halftime alignment already told us Jay and Kendrick are locked in creatively. The Rock Nation infrastructure is aligned. The public-facing chemistry is aligned. And frankly, from a hip-hop history standpoint, this would be the biggest pairing in the last 20 years. Watch the Throne was the last time we saw an event-level rap collaboration operate at this scale, and Watch the Throne was over a decade ago. If Jay drops an album and Kendrick is anywhere on that track list, the whole game changes overnight. Drake's rumored fourth Scary Hours doesn't just get overshadowed, it gets obliterated. It becomes the also released this month bullet point in the year-end recap. That's the difference between event music and content music. And here's the beautiful part, Akademiks will have to cover it. He will have no choice. Because his entire business model depends on being first, being loudest, being present at every major hip-hop moment. So he can either sit in his stream basement and pretend nothing happened while the entire timeline lights up, or he can pick up the phone, book the flight, take the L publicly, and cover the moment in real time. Either way, he loses. That's the box that Jay-Z put him in without ever saying his name. That's called strategic gravity. That's called being so big your enemies have to orbit you or die of irrelevance. The elder statesman doesn't have to name you to defeat you. He just has to keep breathing on the same planet. Now let me also address the Drake fan corner directly, because I know some of you are watching this video ready to type furiously in the comments. And I get it. I understand fandom. I understand loyalty. But let me offer you a moment of honest reflection. Your guy started this fight. Your guy poked. Your guy antagonized. Your guy dropped subs on subs for 2 straight years. Your guy referenced the Rock Nation subpoenas on his own gambling stream. Your guy did the whole "the jig is up" freestyle on stage in front of thousands of people. So when Jay-Z finally leans back and swings, you don't get to declare a foul. You don't get to say he's too old. You don't get to say he's using the smoke for a rollout. You don't get to say any of that because your guy has been doing every single one of those things for the better part of half a decade. It is not hypocrisy for the other side to respond. It is hypocrisy for you to condemn the response. Here's the reality, and I'm going to say it plainly. Drake is one of the most talented artists of his generation. Nobody with a functioning ear denies that. But talent alone doesn't win a war of attrition. Skill, strategy, positioning, and resume matter. And in this exchange right now, in the current moment, Jay-Z has the resume, has the strategy, has the position, and increasingly, has the skill advantage as well because the Roots Picnic freestyle sounded sharper than anything Drake has put out in the last calendar year. That is not a fan take. That is what your ears told you the second the freestyle dropped. You just weren't allowed to say it out loud because your camp was busy running damage control. When your own ears are telling you one thing and your fandom is telling you the opposite, one of them is lying. And family, it is not your ears. Let me also touch on the Kanye layer of this thing, because it's related. Ye is out here doing 118,000 people in Turkey. That's the largest rap show ever thrown, allegedly. Ye is dropping records, dropping bombs, dropping alliances, and the entire top of the hip-hop food chain right now consists of Kendrick, Ye, and Jay-Z. Drake is on the outside looking in for the first time in a decade. And the only reason Drake is still in the conversation is because these 3 keep referencing him. Take Kendrick's name out of Drake's mouth. Take Jay-Z's name out of Drake's mouth. Take Ye's name out of Drake's mouth. What is Drake actually talking about right now musically? What is the theme? What is the mission? What is the movement? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like the whole aesthetic of the Drake camp in 2026 is reactive. And reactive careers don't survive at the top. They can hover, they can coast, they can generate short-term revenue, but they don't move the culture forward. And if you don't move the culture forward, the culture eventually moves past you. Now, I want to pivot to one more piece of this puzzle before we start rolling toward the rap. Ray Daniels, because I love the debate, but I gotta call the play said on that same stream that Jay-Z is targeting younger rappers, and that any album would need industry sheets to move numbers. Let's dismantle both. First, targeting younger rappers? Family, that is the entire history of hip-hop as a competitive art form. LL Cool J targeted Kool Moe Dee. Kool Moe Dee targeted Busy Bee. Nas targeted Jay. Jay targeted Nas. 50 targeted Ja Rule. Every generation of MCs has targeted the generation directly beneath and above them, because that's how the sport moves forward. If Jay-Z at his age is willing to step into the ring with a Drake-caliber opponent, that's a compliment to Drake, not an insult. Second, the industry sheets argument? Every major album release since 1996 has involved sheet deals, retail bundles, tour bundles, merchandise pushes, and marketing partnerships. Kendrick did it. Drake did it. His entire streaming empire is built on a machine of partnerships. Beyoncé did it. Taylor Swift did it. So when Jay-Z does it, suddenly it's suspicious? That's not analysis, that's fan fiction. Let's roll into the comments segment, because I want to give you all the temperature check. One of you wrote, "You idiots are acting like this is far-fetched. Nobody wants to see Jay perform." Fam, the Yankee Stadium run sold out. They had to add multiple additional dates. LA sold out to the point that they added a second night. If nobody wanted to see Jay, we would not be having this conversation. Another one of you wrote, "Nobody can go bar for bar with Drake and nobody outsells him." Family, I love the loyalty, but that argument doesn't survive the last 12 months. Kendrick went bar for bar with Drake and, without stretching the truth, walked off with the win. And on the sales side, Jay-Z has moved more physical units, more certified units, more legacy units than any of us can reasonably count. Streaming is important, sure, it's the modern metric, but it is not the only metric. Anyone who tries to build a GOAT argument on streaming alone is going to have to explain how Flo Rida and Post Malone end up higher on the GOAT list than Nas. Do you see the trap in that argument? It doesn't hold water. It never has. Another one, y'all realize the only reason we're still talking about Drake is because Jay-Z is talking about him? Precisely. If Jay-Z stopped saying Drake's name tomorrow, the Drake news cycle would deflate inside of a week. And borrowed gravity is the last stage before career decline. And here is the deeper truth, family. This whole discourse, the Drake fan cope, the Akademiks stream, the Ray Daniels take, the Rock Nation conspiracies, the he's targeting younger rappers narrative, every last piece of it is being generated by people who understand, deep in their bones, that Jay-Z is winning right now. If Jay were actually washed, actually irrelevant, actually dusty, nobody would be talking about the man. There would be no press cycles. There would be no counter-narrative. There would be no stream pinning takes. The very fact that Akademiks devotes hours of streaming to a man he claims is finished tells you everything you need to know. Attention is the tell. And Jay-Z is drowning the algorithm in attention right now, and every single Drake surrogate is helping him do it, whether they realize it or not. So let's talk about what's coming next. Because if the timeline holds, we are looking at the following 10 weeks. Somewhere in that window, Jay-Z is going to formally announce a project. It might be a solo album. It might be a joint project. It might be Kendrick featuring, it might be Kendrick adjacent, it might be a Rock Nation label mate compilation. Whatever the shape, it's coming. Somewhere in that window, Drake is going to attempt some form of countermove. Whether that's a Scary Hours 4 drop, a full studio release, a surprise single with a heavy feature, or a video series designed to reset the narrative, something is coming. And somewhere on October 24th, at Sofi Stadium in Inglewood, on Drake's 40th birthday, Jay-Z is going to walk on that stage in front of a sold-out crowd, and there is a very real possibility that Kendrick Lamar walks out with him. And if that happens, family, we are witnessing the biggest single hip-hop moment of the entire year, bigger than the Super Bowl, bigger than the Roots picnic, bigger than any album drop scheduled for the last quarter. And one more thing. Notice the language Akademiks keeps using. Let's see if y'all can roll it out without somebody giving y'all the layup. No doubt, family, that is the sound of a man who has watched Jay-Z's entire year and realized, in real time, that the layup is precisely what Jay-Z has been engineering. And the layup is Drake himself. Drake is the layup. Drake spent 2 years shooting his mouth off, and now the man he baited is standing in the paint waiting to dunk. That's the picture. That's the play. That's the reality Akademiks is stress testing on stream while pretending it's an insult. It's not an insult. It's a strategy diagram, and Akademiks accidentally drew it for us. And can we talk about how funny the Ed and Eddie analogy is that keeps floating around social media right now? The image of the character just staring out the window while everybody else has fun? That's Akademiks. That's the entire aesthetic of that camp right now. Everyone else is at the show, everyone else is at the stadium, everyone else is at the after party, and Akademiks is sitting in a basement studio pretending he doesn't want to be there while his flight to LAX gets more expensive by the hour. And here is my prediction, he books that flight. He gets on that plane. He walks into that stadium. And he covers that show like his life depends on it. Because his career, more than any other single day of the year, will depend on how he handles October 24th. Watch him. Y'all, let me be honest with you for a second. I love this. I love this moment in hip-hop. Because for the first time in what feels like a decade, we are watching the culture actually move forward. We are watching the elder statesmen defend their thrones with sharp elbows. We are watching the younger generation get tested. We are watching the media class get exposed as fans in press uniforms. We are watching the audience, us, family, us, actually pay attention to lyricism again, to bars again, to competition again, to the sport of it all. This is what hip-hop is supposed to feel like. This is the era every rap purist has been begging to return. And right now, in real time, Jay-Z is dragging the culture back into that headspace. Whether you're on his side or not, the man is single-handedly resetting the tempo of the entire game. That is a category of achievement that lives with maybe 5 or 6 names ever. Jay-Z is one of them. Kendrick Lamar is one of them. Drake, at his peak, was on the runway toward it. Whether he stays on that runway is the story of the next 12 months. So here is where I want y'all to weigh in. Drop your read in the comments. Do you think Jay-Z is dropping an album before the end of the year? Do you think Kendrick Lamar walks out on that SoFi Stadium stage on October 24th? Do you think Drake attempts a counterdrop on his own birthday? And do you think Akademiks, who says he wants no parts of any of it, actually books the flight and shows up? I want your reads on all of it. Because the way this thing is trending, 10 weeks from now we are going to look back at this exact moment as the moment the tectonic plates of hip-hop actually shifted. And the internet is going to melt down in the best way possible. Drop your predictions on record now, so when the day comes, we can revisit them together and give the sharpest of your flowers on camera in the next video. One more thought before I let y'all go. If Jay-Z genuinely wanted to end this decisively, the play is simple. Drop the album. Feature Kendrick on 1 or 2 tracks. Book a joint performance at SoFi. Let the algorithm do the rest. Because at that point, the story is not Drake versus Jay. The story is a generational cosign. And a generational cosign, family, is the single most devastating move any elder statesman can pull on a younger challenger. Kendrick doesn't need the cosign, but the alignment redraws the map. It says, this is who we back, this is who we protect, this is who represents the culture at the top of the food chain. And if that message goes out on the same night as Drake's 40th birthday, well, family, I don't need to spell out the symbolism. The date is the message. The lineup is the message. The stage is the message. The city is the message. Every single variable in this equation is a message, and Jay-Z is composing it with the precision of a chess grandmaster who has already seen the checkmate 7 moves ahead. Family, we are living in cinematic times. This is Watch the Throne 2 energy without an album even being announced yet. This is the culture at its most competitive since the Nas J era. And you have a front row seat to every second of it. So make sure you drop your take in the comments below. I read all of them, and the temperature of this comment section is going to shape my next few reactions. Hit that like button if you're rocking with this coverage, because the algorithm needs it, and it lets me keep bringing you this kind of forensic breakdown on the biggest stories in the game. Smash the subscribe button if you haven't yet, because we are only getting deeper into this Jay-Z Drake Kendrick Akademiks saga over the next 10 weeks. And I want you locked in with me for every twist. Massive love to everybody who joined the memberships this week. The support has been unreal, and I want you to know it fuels every single upload on this channel. Big thanks to everyone who dropped a super thanks under the last video. Every single one, I see it, I appreciate it, I'm humbled by it. And if you want to keep the conversation going in real time, roll over to X and slide through my profile, links in the pinned comment and the description. That's where I get all the tips, all the reactions, all the story leads, and all the debates that end up shaping the next round of coverage. You want a story covered? Drop it there, and it might end up as the next video. Family, hip-hop is officially back to being the most interesting sport in America right now, and the next 10 weeks are going to be legendary. Kendrick Lamar might walk on that Sofi Stadium stage. Jay-Z might drop the biggest album of his second-half career. Drake might attempt a Hail Mary counterdrop on his own birthday. Akademiks might book the flight and get spotted in the crowd. And every single one of us is going to be watching in real time. I would not miss it for anything. And neither should you. Alright folks, that's the coverage for tonight. You know how we do it. Stay locked in, stay tapped in, and I'll see you on the next one. Because on October 24th, at SoFi Stadium, on Drake's 40th birthday, one way or the other, hip-hop history is going to be written. Peace, family. Peace.